Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you a video today to share some tips with you on how to break in a pair of soccer cleats, more specifically the new Nike Magista Obra and the new Nike Mercurial Superfly 4, two of the most popular high-end models currently out there on the market. A lot of people have picked them up and a lot of people seem to be experiencing issues with discomfort and blistering, and a lot of that can be attributed to the brand new design of this particular shoe. I will give it that, but I don't think that the issues that most people are having are the shoe's fault. A lot of it is down to the wearer and how they're actually going about breaking in these shoes and getting used to wearing them. And these are the issues and the problems that I'm hoping to solve with today's video. So stay tuned, and also please keep in mind that the tips I'm providing in today's video are not just strictly for these two models. They're going to be tips that are usable for pretty much any soccer cleat in general. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. The first thing that you should do, even prior to actually wearing the shoes out on a field, is determine for yourself whether or not this shoe fits you properly, if it's going to be comfortable for you in the long run. Now, what a lot of people have to do nowadays, because they don't have access to specialty soccer stores in their area, is they have to order online. So when a lot of people order online, they do their research, they watch channels like mine, they check out reviews, written reviews, video reviews, whatever it may be. They do their research and they come to a conclusion on one specific pair of shoes that is the model that they want to wear as their next soccer cleat. And that's fine, and that's something that I would recommend everybody doing. Always do your research when you're ordering online. So you place your order, you sit at home, and you wait in anticipation. Sometimes it takes a couple days, sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes two. But when your shoes finally arrive, you are super excited. You're pumped up to wear these things. And that is one of the major problems that people are going to have when it comes to how these shoes are going to be in terms of overall comfort. You need to set aside all of that excitement, wait for the shoe to arrive at your house, and take your time, put them on, tie them up, walk around your house a little bit, and decide whether or not this shoe actually fits you properly, if it matches your foot type. Because as much research as you've done, as much as you would like to wear that particular shoe, sometimes a certain shoe just does not work with your foot type. Not all shoes work with everybody's foot type, and that's something that I really want to stress in today's video. If you put something like a Superfly 4 on, if you put something like a Magista Obra on, or any shoe for that matter, and it just doesn't feel right, you're probably not going to have a good experience with that shoe, simply because it doesn't fit you properly. And it's not your fault, it's not the company's fault, it's just that, like I said, not every shoe is going to fit every foot type. So if that's the case, honestly, I would totally recommend returning them and perhaps going for another model. Don't force yourself inside a pair of shoes that don't fit you properly. Don't force yourself to wear a pair of shoes that you really want to wear, but again, they just don't fit you well. If a shoe doesn't fit you properly, if there's something uncomfortable pretty much from right out of the box, it's more likely than not that shoe is never going to be comfortable for you. So again, please, when you get a brand new pair of shoes and you've ordered online, or even if you're buying in store, determine for yourself whether or not that shoe fits you properly and is going to be comfortable in the long run, regardless of how much or how little you actually want to wear that shoe. Another thing that you have to determine for yourself prior to actually wearing the shoes is the sizing. With something like this, where the construction of the shoe is a little bit different than what you would normally have from a standard pair of low-cut shoes, it's absolutely critical that you have the proper sizing in both the Obra and the Superfly 4. Because there is a full ankle enclosure, the way that it hugs your heel and ankle area is a little bit different. You don't necessarily get that same kind of forced-in lockdown when you tie the laces tight in the heel area on this particular shoe. So because of that, like I said, it's really important that you have the right size. If there's too much space at the toe, your heel is going to slip no matter what you do, and you're just never going to get a comfortable fit out of the Magista Obra or the Superfly 4, and this can go for a lot of standard models as well. If you're wearing your shoes with a ton of extra space at the toe, that's a problem. You want there to be no more than maybe 3/4 of a thumb's width of space at the end, and that's about it. If you're putting any more space than that, your shoes are simply too big for you. And if you can live with having less space than that, like I do, I like to have no space on the inside of my shoe, that works out even better. Part of the reason why you buy these high-end shoes is to have a more streamlined, a tighter, a closer to the foot type of fit and feel. And if you're buying high-end shoes and they're too big for you, not only are they going to feel right, not only are they going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it almost defeats the purpose of buying that high-end shoe in the first place. So again, if you order a pair of shoes online, they come and they're a little bit too big or a little bit too small, return them, get the right size, and then try them out, because it's going to be better for you in the long run. Believe it or not, socks can actually play a really big role in how comfortable your shoes are going to be. Now, there's two things that I see a lot of that really you need to avoid if you want to stay as comfortable as possible and avoid blisters while wearing your shoes. The first thing that I see is people wearing the same socks over and over and over again for several years at a time. What happens with socks is, like anything, they break down over time. Once you wear them, once you wash them, certain parts of the sock thin out, certain parts tend to ball up, they become harder and crusty, and there's friction spots on the sock. So when you start to wear them, it's going to cause extra friction, and in turn you're going to end up with a blister. The second thing that I see that drives me absolutely crazy, and I don't understand why people do it, is they wear soccer shoes with ankle socks, where the sock is kind of falling down inside of the shoe and you're leaving your bare heel exposed to the inside of the boot. That is just a recipe for blisters. It's going to cause a ton of extra friction, your heel's going to slide around, and you're going to get a blister. It's just that simple. So in order to avoid this, one, you want to have proper length socks, at least something that is cut above your ankle for a pair of soccer shoes, at least in my opinion. And the second thing you want to do is at least have a fresh pair of socks, 1 or 2 new pairs every season. Something that's going to be a little bit softer, that fits you properly, so you don't have extra kind of bulges in the sock when it's inside your shoe. So it's just going to be as comfortable as possible. It fits your foot properly. And again, just make sure that you have a decent pair of socks on your feet. Now, as far as what brand I would recommend, obviously True Socks are a product that I recommend a lot on my channel, and it really is a fantastic performance product as far as socks go. There's really nothing else like it out there on the market. But when it comes to shoes like the Magista Obra and the Superfly 4, where they already fit so well, they have that sock-like sensation on your feet as it is, in terms of how tightly it wraps and how naturally it moves with your foot, and it's also very responsive. I almost don't feel like True Socks are necessary, at least for me personally. That's not to say there's something wrong with wearing True Socks with either of these two shoes. You can wear them with any piece of footwear, but again, I don't find it entirely necessary. What I like to wear a lot when testing out shoes and just want to be as comfortable as possible is the Nike Elite series of socks. Pretty much any variation they have there tend to fit pretty well. They're a nice thickness, they're well cushioned, they're nice and soft, they fit nicely, and again, they're fairly inexpensive, for around $14 to $18, I would say. You can get yourself a pair of Nike Elite socks. They last a long time and they just feel really good. So again, just go out, find a pair of socks that fit you properly, that are soft, comfortable, and like I said, don't wear your socks over and over and over again to the point where they're so broken down where they are going to cause you issues. The last thing to consider before actually going out and playing in your shoes is how you tie them. With something like the Superfly 4 and the Obra, where you have this sock-like Flyknit enclosure, it's a mid-cut design, and it's a one-piece upper, a lot of people almost disregard the laces as important, but they are extremely crucial into how this shoe is going to fit, how it's going to lock your foot down inside of the shoe, and how much heel slippage or movement on the inside of the shoe you're actually going to have. So, again, with this shoe or any shoe, you want to make sure you're tying them tight enough. You don't want to leave them too loose. You don't want to tie them too tight necessarily either. You want to find that kind of happy medium that you're comfortable with. But again, with something like the Superfly 4 as well as the Magista Obra, please, please, please make sure that you're tying these up tight enough in order to avoid any kind of heel slippage or just general slippage on the inside of the shoe. The laces are not there for show. They're there for an actual reason. They work with the Brio cables on the Superfly 4 to lock your foot in place, keep your heel from sliding, and like I said, just providing that extra support that you wouldn't normally have. So again, if you're wearing the Obra, if you're wearing the Superfly 4, or any shoe for that matter, just make sure you're tying them tight enough prior to actually going out and running around. So, you've determined that the shoes fit you properly, you have the right size, you got a decent pair of socks on, and you've tied them up tight enough. What should you do next? You're about ready to wear the shoes, but this is kind of the one area where everyone's going to be a little bit different. Everyone has different tolerances for comfort levels and how kind of comfortable they're going to feel in a brand new pair of shoes, I guess is the best way to put it. What I would personally recommend, and what I very often do with a brand new pair of shoes that I am kind of unfamiliar with is I'll wear them around the house for a couple hours prior to actually wearing them on a field. Now you can do this with or without socks, and you don't necessarily need to be pacing, walking around in your house. Just wear them while you're on the computer, wear them while you're watching TV, just sitting around, walking around the house, just very casually like you would a normal pair of shoes. Obviously you don't want to walk on cement or anything that's going to hurt the studs, but again, just wearing them casually around the house can give you a pretty good idea on how the shoe fits. And again, after a couple hours, if the shoes are killing your feet and they just don't feel right, again, we're going to go back to step one, and we've determined that this may not be the best shoe for you because they don't necessarily fit you properly or they aren't comfortable for you for whatever reason, just because every shoe doesn't fit every foot type. So once you feel like you've tried the shoes on, you're absolutely 100% sure that this is a shoe that you want to move forward with as far as the break-in process is concerned, what I would recommend is don't wear them straight into a game, don't wear them straight into a practice with your team. Go to a field by yourself with 1 or 2 soccer balls and just take things very slowly. Do very minimal running, just some light jogging, maybe some juggling, maybe some passing the ball. You don't want to go out and do sprints immediately. You don't want to do any kind of hard running or hard lateral changes. You don't want to go shooting the ball, because all of these kind of high stress type of activities with these shoes on your feet can lead to possible blistering. So like I said, you want to take things very, very slowly until you feel like you're more comfortable to move up to these more extreme, more kind of physically active activities, I guess, more strenuous activities, I should say, because like I said, you want to kind of get used to the shoes, have your feet get used to the shoes prior to actually doing something that is going to be a little bit more high intensity, I guess. So again, avoid shooting the ball right away, avoid doing any kind of high intensity running or quick changes of direction. You want to take things very, very slowly and make sure that you're 100% comfortable in the shoes before you do anything particularly strenuous. So you've started slow, you've worn the shoes for 20 minutes, maybe even a couple hours. Everybody's going to have a different time frame in terms of how long it takes for them to feel comfortable to wear the shoe at a higher intensity. But like I said, once you feel like you're 100% confident that you can wear these shoes for an extended period of time at a higher intensity without being in any kind of discomfort, that's when I would take them to a practice. I wouldn't necessarily wear them in a game yet. I would wear them through at least 1 or 2 practices and make sure that you've gotten through that practice and are 100% confident that that shoe fits you comfortably. Now, with that being said, once you start wearing the shoe at higher intensities, this is where blisters can become an issue. And believe it or not, blisters are one of those things that, again, you can fault the shoe to a certain extent, but they're not an instantaneous type of injury or something that just happens at the snap of your fingers. What happens with a blister is it's a friction thing. So it takes a couple minutes, maybe even half an hour for that blister to develop. But you can always feel when you're going to get a blister. It's not something that happens instantaneously, like I mentioned. So as soon as you start feeling that little bit of discomfort, that's a good idea to stop, take the shoes off, and go in another piece of footwear, wear another pair of shoes, maybe your older shoes or something like that, a pair that you know that you're 100% comfortable in, even a pair of running shoes. Anything to avoid that blister is something that you should do. And again, what a lot of people do is they're very excited to wear their brand new pair of shoes, their feet start to hurt a little bit, and they're like, it doesn't hurt that bad, I don't care, I'm just going to keep wearing them because I really like these things, I like how they feel, and then 10 minutes later, you can't walk anymore because you got a blister on your heel, you got a blister wherever it may be on your foot. So again, please, 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 if you start to feel any kind of discomfort, the best thing you can do for your shoes, your feet, as well as just the whole break-in process is take the shoes off and put on another pair so you're comfortable. You're going to avoid that blister, and then the next day when you have another practice, you put the same shoes back on, and again, you go for a certain amount of time. If you don't have any issues then, great. If the issue persists, take the shoes off, wear another pair that are comfortable, and repeat that process until you're 100% confident and 100% comfortable in your brand new pair of shoes. And that's really how the break-in process should go. Some shoes are not going to require you to take them off at all. They're not going to cause you blisters, but again, every shoe is a little bit different, and when you're dealing with something like a Superfly 4 or Magista Obra, where it's such a unique design and it's such a unique fit, you're putting your feet in an environment that they're not used to, so it isn't uncommon or necessarily surprising, to me at least, that you may run across issues. Now, as far as what my experiences have been with either of these two shoes, I really didn't have any issues with the Superfly, but that's because I tested them after getting used to the Obra. With the Obra, I did have some very slight discomfort at first, but again, it was just because it was such a strange, unique feeling shoe. But after 1 or 2 practices, after I kind of went through like half a training session and then switched out into a different pair of shoes, on that 3rd training session, I really didn't have any issues with discomfort at all and haven't had any issues since then. So again, I think that with both the Superfly 4 and the Obra, the issues aren't so much the actual shoe, not so much the design. It just has to do with kind of adjusting to how these shoes fit and how they feel, and just giving your feet enough time to get used to how they feel. And again, if you don't take them off, when they start to feel uncomfortable, you're going to get blisters. It's inevitable. That doesn't just go for the Superfly 4 and the Obra. That goes for any shoes at all. Alright guys, that's it for my tips on how you should go about breaking in a pair of soccer shoes. Again, just to go over everything very quickly, when you order your shoes online or when you're trying them on in store, it's very important that you determine for yourself whether or not these shoes fit you properly, both in width as well as the size. You want to make sure you have a decent pair of socks. You want to make sure that your shoes are tied up properly. And once you actually begin wearing the shoes, start slow until you're more comfortable in that particular shoe. And once you're comfortable, then you can go move on to something at a little bit higher intensity. But once you get to those high intensity activities, you want to make sure that as soon as you start feeling any kind of discomfort, you take the shoes off and you put on a pair that are more comfortable for your feet in order to avoid blisters and just make the break-in process a little bit more seamless and a little bit more comfortable for yourself, while also avoiding any kind of injuries. Once you've kind of gotten through and done this, repeated this process until the shoes start to feel comfortable, then you are pretty much done the break-in process. And really, that's it. That goes for the Magista Obra, that goes for the Superfly 4, or just any pair of soccer shoes. Take things slow and be aware when your feet are in pain and when you are uncomfortable. When you start to feel uncomfortable, take the shoes off. That's the best thing you can do. And I realize that it's sometimes a little bit more difficult than it may sound when I explain it. But again, when you get a blister, more often than not, it's your fault, not the fault of the shoe. So other than that, guys, that's pretty much it for my tips video. If you have any questions regarding the Obra, the Superfly 4, just any shoes in general as far as break-in is concerned, leave your questions down below in the comments. If you have any suggestions for other videos you'd like to see as far as comparisons go, I know a lot of you guys probably want to see a comparison between the Superfly 4 and the Obra. That is going to be coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. But if you have any other suggestions, leave those down below in the comments as well. If you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. Also, you can find my playtest videos. I'll leave annotations on screen for both the Obra and the Superfly 4 if you guys would like more info on the overall performance of either of these two models. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.